Hi there, I'm now going to work with the function element and just show you how that works and how we can configure it. So what we've got is just the two tank simulation. I've added a whole bunch of controllers and indicators. Controllers are really there because the simulation won't run if some of the simulation inputs are unconnected. So you always need to have something connected to all the simulation inputs so that the simulation has a value to work with. Okay, so let's just add a function element onto the diagram. What I'm going to do is use the two levels as inputs to this function. So let's just click that there. Click the edit button. So we've got two level instruments, LI003, which has a value of 2 when the simulation is running, and LIR001, which is a value of 2 when the simulation is running as well. So let's just configure this unit. But just make it other because we're not quite sure. We'll leave it as sum at the moment and we'll make it 100 as the tag name. Let's put input 1 into the left hand side and input 2 into the bottom, and we'll take the output out at the right hand side. The two input signals are two level signals, so let's just make them 0 to 5, and the type is level meters, 0 to 5 level meters, and our output, let's go 0 to 100 on that one, just to give us some room to manoeuvre, and we'll make it percentage. Okay, so as it is, this thing's set up as a sum unit, which means the device function will obey this equation here. So the output that's generated is going to be equal to constant A times input 1. Now input 1, when the simulation is running at steady state, has a value of 2, but the constant value is currently 0, so let's just change that to 1. Plus B times input 2, again B is 0, we have to change that to 1. Okay, and let's just click OK on that one. The other thing we need is some way to see what the output of this thing is doing, so we're going to need an indicator or some device that allows us to present that value on the control panel. So let's configure this. It is another type of variable. We're going to use an indicator. Let's make this 101. Want the measurement signal coming in the left hand side, and the value is going to be 0 to 100, and it's percentage we're using. The indicator, we'll configure it to be green for a change. 8, let's have a couple of decimal points in there too. Now these indicators, I haven't mentioned that before, you can actually resize the window, so you can change the size of the indicator if you desperately want to do that. So let's pull that across there. Next thing we've got to do is connect up our things. So we go from this output port to this input port, and the output port on the bottom level measuring instrument onto that port, and then drag the output into the indicator input there, and that's us ready to run. To run the simulation, we've got to press the run button. This is described in another video how you operate the simulation, but let's just run this until we see the simulation clock moving. Okay, so you can see that our two levels are at 2, and the sum of those two levels is at 4. Okay, so let's stop the simulation and reconfigure this. Let's change one of these constants. Let's make that 2. So what we're doing is multiplying input 1 by 2 and then adding input 2 onto the thing. And let's run the simulation, wait for the clock to change, and you can see what we've got is now 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 2 is 6. Stop it again and we'll try something else. Let's configure. You can see at the moment, by the way, that the symbol in the little box at the top here is a summation symbol, so it indicates the kind of operation that's going on inside this element. So let's change what we've got on here. So that's a summation, average, kind of boring. Let's do the multiplication. So what we've got is 2 times input 1 times input 2, so that's going to be 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so we've got 8, so that's working fine, so let's stop that. And let's change it again. Let's change it to a division this time. Okay, so the division, you can see what we've got here with division is that the output is going to be equal to constant A times input 1 plus constant B times input 2 divided by constant C times input 3. So if we actually just use input 1 and input 2, all we're going to be doing is adding the two things together and multiplying obviously the first one with 2. So let's change this back to 1 just now. What we're going to have to do is, rather than have input 2 coming in here, let's have input 3 coming into that one. Now we have to put in the appropriate limits again because essentially we've erased an input, and that should be us. Okay, when we do that, it tells us that an input connection to port has changed. So what it does, PISim does, is it actually deletes any links to that port because you've changed what the port does. So PISim is keeping you right by deleting any links. So we have to remake the connection to that port, and that is now going to be going in as input 3. It's a division, so what we've set it up to do is to divide the value coming in here by the value coming in here. So once again, let's run the simulation till the thing changes. Oops, what's happened here? You can see what I've done here is to divide A times input 1, so that's going to be 2, divided by 0 times input 3, so that's a divide by 0. So that's in theory producing an infinite value. However, the output will actually be constrained by its upper limit. So the output that we've got on the upper limit of the output here is 100, so the display is actually showing 100. The mistake I made was not putting a 1 in there. Okay, so let's put the 1 in there and let's run the simulation again. Okay, so what you can see now is we've got 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. The last thing you can do with this element is to actually enter your own function. So you can actually put in any function you want in here. It has to follow ZojoScript syntax. So really these are kind of examples of what ZojoScript syntax actually is. So let's just put in A times I1 times I2. So really all we're doing is just doing a multiplication thing. So you can check the function syntax, and this thing checks to make sure that this matches this ZojoScript, which is a scripting language in the Zojo framework. So that's okay, and we can run it. And oops, we've got a 0 there, but the reason we've got a 0 in that one, I'll bet, is because I've left constant A at 0. Configure. Ooh. Oh, nope, haven't left constant A at 0. What I've done is to put in input 2, which hasn't been defined, so input 2 is essentially going to be 0. So what we want is an input 3. You might think all these are deliberate mistakes, but they're not. It's just I'm stupid. Okay, so let's try again. There we go. Okay, so what we've got now is 2 times 2 is 4. But this is done this time with a user-defined formula. So user-defined formulas can be anything you like as long as they conform to ZojoScript. Okay, thank you very much for listening.